Hello out there, Eagle fans. Welcome to the Middle School Athletics Community Panel. We are so excited to be able to tell you more about everything that's happening in the athletic life of Eastside Prep and for you to get to know members of our student and our faculty community, as well as our administration. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to ask us things that you're thinking about as you think about what am I interested in doing in my next school home, my middle school experience when it comes to athletics and other types of involvement outside of the classroom. So this is a great way for you to get to know us. This is a great way for us to get to know you and things that you're thinking about. My name is Ms. Miller, Cheryl Miller. I'm our Director of Enrollment Management at Eastside Prep, and I am so delighted to be able to bring you a wide panel of experiences through the members of our community. They're going to take some time to introduce themselves, and then we will round it out by popping back into some question time. But before our panelists introduce themselves, I want to take the opportunity to introduce my colleague, Ms. Katie Nickel, our Admissions Experience Coordinator. How's it going out there, Katie?
Oh, I always have to remember to unmute myself, but I'm doing great.
It's that if anybody has been in a web meeting in the year 2020, you have forgotten to unmute yourself. That is for sure. Well, Ms. Nickel, thank you so much for putting this event together this evening. Ms. Nickel is going to be able to share this content after tonight as well. So if you have somebody who is interested in middle school at Eastside Prep Middle School Athletics and doesn't have a chance to attend tonight, they're probably watching this in video form right now in the future right now, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
exactly. So thanks, Ms. Nickel. Appreciate you and appreciate all of your efforts for tonight. We're going to kick it off with our panelists. And then as Ms. Nickel has put in the chat itself, you're going to want to go ahead and ask us questions that you have. In the questions and answers section, you'll see a prompt there from her. You can ask us questions and identify yourself. You can also ask questions anonymously. So if you don't want everyone to know what secret sports longings you have in your heart, you don't need to share those right away. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first member of the panel who can tell you more about himself, and that is Raj. Raj, how's it going out there?
Hi everyone, my name's Raj. You can also call me Raj Veer, and I've been at EPS for 1 year, and I really enjoy playing sports. I do it every single trimester. It's one of my classes, and one thing I've learned about EPS sports is the team's very welcoming, no matter if you have like a higher skills, you have a higher skill set or you have a lower skill set, and it doesn't matter where you've started from, you can start here. So, and all of the games and classes are really fun. So that's what I've learned at Eastside Prep about sports.
Awesome, Rajveer. And what grade are you in this year, Rajveer?
I'm in 6th grade.
6th grade. So going on a 1.5 years of experiences that you've had. Thanks so much for being with us this evening. Anvika.
Hello, my name is Anvika. I'm in 8th grade this year, and I've been at EPS since 5th grade, so this is my 4th year at EPS. I have taken many sports at EPS. I've taken soccer, basketball, and ultimate frisbee. I'm also on the rowing team and the math club. As well, I also take part in a couple of clubs during the school day, including Leadership Lab and Spanish Table.
Awesome. Sounds like a full plate and a lot of fun, all of it. And Anvika, is there anything that you haven't done sports-wise at EPS that you're looking forward to doing still?
I'm really excited. I haven't actually taken a PE class for a couple of reasons because I always took the sports. Mm-hmm. So this is actually my first try taking a complete PE class, and I'm really excited for that.
Oh, that's great. Well, we'll talk more about the difference between taking a sport during the day and doing PE during the day, but really appreciate all of that introduction. Dia, how's it going out there?
Hi, I'm Dia. I have been going to EPS since 5th grade, and I'm in 9th grade right now, so this is my 5th year at EPS. I've been in basketball, and I think like 2 years ago I was in soccer. I've been in frisbee and cross country, and I played tennis in 5th grade. This year I'm not doing any sports. I decided to opt out because of COVID, but I'm looking forward to joining the basketball team.
The basketball team, I'm sure, is looking forward to having you. Thanks so much, Dia. And now you'll hear from some of our sports educators on Nuon. How's it going out there?
I am well. I hope everyone's having a great evening. My name is On Nuon. I've been coaching at Eastside Prep for 6 years. This is actually my second full year of teaching at the school, where I teach middle school PE, and I also coach soccer and basketball. And
so you've been an EPS coach longer than you have an EPS full-time employee.
Correct. And it's been great. It's been great to get more involved in the school and in the community, and it's been a much great addition to the responsibilities I've had at the school. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more and doing more for sure. So.
And you became the 6th grade team leader this year as well, as all of your responsibilities in teaching and coaching. Is that correct?
That is correct. I forgot about that part of my responsibilities. I am also the grade level coordinator for the 6th grade. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, Raj, how do you think he's doing as a 6th grader? What would you say? How's Coach Nuon doing?
I think for his first year, he's doing perfectly. So, yeah.
Great. Glad to hear that ringing endorsement. Thanks, Raj. And Coach Hayes, how are you this evening?
I'm great. My name is Melissa Hayes. I have been at Eastside Prep for 15 years, and I have had the privilege to teach PE in the middle school, the upper school. I teach customized training to maximize performance along with our group PE courses. I coach 5-6 boys basketball. I'm the assistant coach for upper school varsity girls, and I coach rowing for middle and upper school.
So if you can imagine, with that busy of a slate of things that you have done and are still currently doing, Coach Hayes is, I think, the only member of our community who is actually physically on campus right now. Is that correct?
That is true.
Although, do you have the real gym behind you, or is it the gym background behind you?
It's the gym background, simply because I didn't know how the lighting was going to look long term for this meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that it looked good throughout the discussion.
Well, thank you for that attention to aesthetics, and we appreciate all the ways you've contributed to the community. Coach Hayes, is it true that when you started at EPS, you were like, there was no gym there? You were in one of our old office building spaces and just trying not to hit those like those drop ceiling tiles as you were kicking balls around?
That is true. In the first 9 years that I taught here at Eastside Prep, we had PE in a large open, like an office building. And we had the low ceiling tiles, we had sprinklers that came down. But it actually, I think about the experience we're having this year, and it really set me up well for this because it allowed us to look at the world as our classroom rather than a physical space. And so making sure that we take what we have and make it be what we need and figure out ways to leverage that. And we utilize off-campus fields, gyms, and other facilities, which we still do to this day in some ways. I also drive a school bus and to practices or to, different environments for our PE classes. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all your flexibility and toggling to remote and making it work from coaching sports to being in classes. You all have done a tremendous job this year. And the person behind a lot of the initiatives that we engage in from an athletic perspective, who knows the most about athletics at EPS besides Coach Hayes, Ms. Kim Eng, our Director of Athletics. How are you this evening, Kim?
Hi, I'm fantastic. Thanks, Cheryl. I am so excited to be here, and I hope you all have a lot of questions for us. I really want you to get to know our program. It is awesome. It is fun. This is my 3rd year at EPS, so Miss Miller was kind of cracking a joke that Miss Hayes might know more than I do. Coach On might as well, but we actually are a great team. We all work together really well. I use these two as much as I can. I will hire them to coach anything at any time because they're such amazing teachers and coaches. But yeah, so my job here is to make sure that middle schoolers have a great time playing sports. The more sports you play, the more participation, the more you can learn, the more fun. Middle school sports is we're mostly on participation and learning fundamentals and rules of the game and technique. And our job is to make sure you have a good time. So I want to hire coaches that allow us to do that. And yeah, so any questions you have, please shoot them our way. We're all excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Ms. Ang, for being such a great leader in our athletics program and for hiring great people and keeping great people at EPS who make the program what it is. We already have a wonderful question that I will publish to the chat, and we hope we have more coming in. So Ashna asks, I'm applying for 5th grade. I want to try a lot of new sports. Do I need to know to play it before I join the team, or can I learn later? Also, will the school help me build up my stamina? So such a great question. And I'm reminded of a quote from Raj just earlier this evening, where he said, it doesn't matter where you're starting from, you can start here. So Raj, will you talk more about that experience of just getting started with certain sports? And then if the other students want to chime in, Anvika, Dia, please go right ahead. We'd love to hear more from you all as well. But Raj, will you kick us off on that question?
Yeah, so basically what I meant by you can start from anywhere is that you didn't have to play the sport before you came here. And like for me, I wasn't that good at soccer before I came here, but when I came, I became a decent goalie and I helped the team at the goalie position. And then, like, if you want me to answer your stamina question, Coach On and Coach Hayes are doing a good job on online school of making us do intense workouts to help build your stamina. And like at school also, they make you run a lot. So if you really want to build your stamina, you can do it at sports. So.
Great. So you've been able to feel yourself getting stronger and building more stamina from a cardio perspective as well, would you say, Raj?
Yeah, so like especially during online school, now we're mostly doing workouts and like ball handling right now in basketball. So since we don't have many students don't have like hoops at their home, we're mainly doing workouts. So I think it's like a different workout every time. So sometimes it'll work on your core, sometimes it'll work on your legs, sometimes it'll work on cardio. So yeah.
Sweet. So you got some variety in there. That's awesome. Yeah. What would other students add? Anvika, Dia, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I took customized training to maximize performance. And basically, we designed our own workout plan. And every, I think, like few weeks, we took progress measures. So basically, you have to be able to measure your progress. So for example, like how many push-ups can I do in a minute? How many sit-ups can I do in a minute? And I was able to see how I got better. And we like graphed it out and saw everyone's progress. So I would say, yeah, definitely it helps. I remember being like really tired afterwards in a good way. So that was really nice.
That's awesome. So not only did you internally feel like your stamina was getting better, but it sounds like you were charting that out. So you had data to support how that was increasing as well.
Yeah. And if you like injure yourself in some way, then I've had Miss Hayes as a PE teacher. She's really good at changing like what you're supposed to do in a way that you still get exercise, but you're not hurting yourself further.
That's great to hear. Anvika, anything you want to add about trying something new? Was rowing new to you when you started at EPS?
Rowing was completely new to me. I had no idea what to do when I first joined, and now I feel like I've improved a lot since I first started in 6th grade. And I'm really proud of my improvement, and I'm really happy that I tried it, even though I was not very excited to try it at first. I love it now.
That's awesome. It sounds like rowing is more of a lifestyle for you now than than just a sport that you compete in. All right. Well, appreciate those thoughts. And it sounds like, you know, in general, the goal is that students will have the opportunity to try a lot of different things out for size within our athletics program. And what I would add to that is that there's the opportunity to do either PE classes or sports programs for students in all grades. And that changes a little bit in terms of how that works in grades 5 and 6 and the other grades. So Ms. Eng, will you give us an overview of how it works to be involved in a sport during the day and how that looks in middle school in 5th and 6th grade versus grade 7 and 8?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I love how we operate our 5th, 6th sports program that coincides with PE. When you're in 5th and 6th grade, you can either take a PE class or you can take one of our sports. So soccer, basketball, volleyball, and ultimate all happen during the day for 5th and 6th graders during the school day. So your practices are your PE class. And what that does, it allows you to have more time after school to kind of dabble in other things. You might want to try other activities that EPS offers. You might be super involved in your own activities, but the commitment level then for 5th and 6th graders is you have your practice during the school day, and then you have about 1 game per week is the requirement, because then we go play other schools who have teams as well. So that's the 5th and 6th graders. And as you move up to 7th and 8th grade, those practices are after school, and they happen about 2 to 3 times per week. So it's kind of this gradual commitment growth as you start from 5th, 6th grade. It gets a little bit more commitment level in 7th and 8th, and then when you move on to the upper school, it's 5 to 6 days per week. So yeah, so our hope is that when you're just starting out EPS, you want to see where your passions lie and see what's super fun for you, and then you kind of get to check everything out, and then you'll kind of slowly mold into, you know, the area that you want to spend most of your time.
That's great. So it's, again, opportunities to get involved, kind of dip a toe in the water and try things out, and then feel like, yeah, I can ramp up that commitment as I have more time as a student at EPS. So so we have one question, which is really just about what sports there are available to play, and are sports specific to each grade and or middle and upper school. And so Coach Hayes, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about you know, sort of what sports are available for the middle schooler specifically, and then which sports make span between different grade levels, as well as between middle and upper school.
Oh, I might need Ms. Eng's help with this, but I can get us started. So in the fall, we've got soccer, volleyball, let's see, rowing, which spans middle and upper school. That's the main sport that's going to span both, where students might be on a team with students from the other division. In the winter, we've got basketball. In the spring, we've got ultimate frisbee. We've got tennis. We have rowing again. We have track. In the fall, we have cross country. Let's see, middle school volleyball switched to the spring. So, let's see, what am I missing? What else? Ms. Eng?
No, you got
Any
them
that
all.
come to mind?
Great.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where we are for middle school sports and the sports that span the 2 divisions at this time.
Sweet. And with respect to the sports that span division, if I'm on the crew team, will I have the same amount of practice if I'm rowing in middle school as if I'm rowing in upper school? How does that work?
Great question. So as Ms. Eng was mentioning about some of the 5-6 opportunities, the expectation for commitment level changes, just like we have scope and sequence for everything that we do here at Eastside Prep. We start you off, we want to introduce you to new things, and then as you become more involved, go more in depth, we want you to take a deeper dive, get more experience. And so middle schoolers on the rowing team are offered the same number of days as upper schoolers. So we practice 5 days per week. However, they are expected to attend at least 3. Now, a lot of them, when they get out there in a boat and they see what it's all about, they want to get better, faster, stronger, and so they do choose to join us for more. But we still fully support them in trying a lot of different things, finding the thing that really speaks to them, where they find the most joy, and participate in that. And we don't do winter training because we really want to encourage students to try other things. We've got basketball, cross training is important, participating if you're a skier or enjoy other winter sports. We want you to have those opportunities as well.
Sweet. Well, speaking of basketball, in the winter, for example, we have a student who asked, I'm applying for 6th grade and I love basketball. How do I get into the basketball team? Do I just get in or do I have to try out? And what is basketball practice like? So hoping for some more specifics on basketball. Who would like to start?
Well, when I joined EPS in 5th grade, I had no idea how to play basketball. So basically, you just sign up for the class and then you show up. You don't need any previous experience, and the same thing for 6th grade, and I'm pretty sure 7th and 8th grade too. You don't need to know basketball at all. You can just show up and the coach will teach you how to play.
And I think that was such a great answer. Definitely in 5th and 6th grade, we divide the teams pretty evenly. Usually we have 2 or maybe more teams because we have so many kids excited about basketball. However, when you move up into the 7th and 8th grade level, we might divide the teams into a Division I. Could be students who are super experienced or play outside basketball that have been playing for a longer time, or the team that has someone who's new to the game and wants to try it in 7th grade. Both are perfectly fine, and we want to make sure we have a place for everyone.
I also, in that question, it also said what is basketball practice like? So, if I had to explain, it was different in person and then virtually. So on virtually, it's more towards workouts and about like ball handling, and in like when we were actually at campus, it was more of like dropping a few hoops in or doing drills and practicing your shooting. Like you would still do fitness and conditioning, but not to the level that we're doing in virtually now. So it differs if you're on campus or if it's virtual.
Do you have one way that you prefer on campus or virtual sports practices?
Not really. I like both of them. Like both of them are entertaining and I get to learn a lot.
That's great, Raj. I appreciate that. We have a clarifying question, which is that somebody wants to know, are the same sports available through all 8 grades? Was that what we were saying, or are there some differences between what's available in middle school and upper school?
I'm happy to tackle that. They're close to the same. They might run in different seasons because in the upper school, we're required to run them when the entire state runs the season. So the difference in upper school too is that we split tennis, boys and girls tennis, where in middle school it's co-ed tennis. We offer the same sports except for boys golf is the other one that we offer in the upper school. And hoping to bring that to the middle school, but we want to start it in the upper school first and then trickle down.
Great.
One question that I'd like to tackle, it says what happens if you do a select sport and it conflicts with the practices for sports at EPS?
Yeah, so go ahead, Raj.
One of the requirements or like one of the asks that they ask you to do is when you're signing up for a team, then they ask you to commit to the team. So showing up to all of the games and showing up to all of the practices, unless you're sick or maybe you injured something. But they don't require you, but they expect from you to attend every practice and every game. So that's my answer to that question.
Rosh, you just made my heart melt. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking to myself, like, Raj, you just take over the whole panel, man. We're all gonna learn so much from you. But I do appreciate that, the idea of commitment, and whether you're talking about an activity like a sport at EPS or getting involved in the play after school or one of our academic teams like robotics. Our goal is not that students will make that experience their whole life's focus. Our goal is that they'll take the time that season, even if it's just one season, to commit to that and make some meaningful experience of it. And that's going to change, depending on the circumstances, whether we're remote, in person, whether you find something you really super love, like Anvika's newfound love of rowing that has blossomed, for example. But the goal is just that students will have the opportunity to try it and see what works for them. So any other things to add regarding that question about select sports? And I don't know, Coach John, I'm wondering if you can share specifically with us the experience that students who have that students who have played select sports or are playing select sports have as student athletes at EPS. You know, how does one experience inform another, and what are some things that you've experienced in your time in coaching? Coach Hayes, you might want to add to this as well, just in terms of students who play select sports outside of EPS.
I can start with that one. You know, one of the big things that we try to stress at the school at EPS is leadership and opportunities to apply and improve leadership. And when you are playing an outside of school sport, whether it's Premier Soccer or select basketball, then you tend to have a little bit more experience in that avenue than others, perhaps, who are just starting off and want to try it. So we really try to encourage those players to come in and take a leadership role in the sport that they're coming in and have a great deal of expertise with. And they've done a really good job of incorporating their leadership skills and not coming in and being too boisterous about things, and really taking people under their wing. And it's been a pretty good give and take, both from the the beginning level. So beginning level, and also for someone who is a little bit more advanced in the sports themselves. So.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like coming in with those select sports experiences that offers that leadership opportunity for students, and just different levels of play allow them to contribute different levels or different qualities of experience to the team.
Absolutely.
Cool. Coach Hayes, would you add anything to that?
I would. So one of the big idea questions that we take on in the customized training, we look at what is gained or lost from that format versus a typical group PE format. And one question that students tackle is, how do I bring outside sports and activities into my experience at Eastside Prep? And that could be in a PE program, it could be on a sports team, it could be in other classes. How does what you do here at Eastside Prep and in your select experience make you better in the other, right? How do they complement each other and both support and stretch you in different ways that allow you to continue to elevate your experience in both places? So.
Sweet. Well, speaking of selection within, competition within select sports, we had one question, which is, do we compete against other teams, and how does that work? And how is that different from 5th and 6th grade sports to students who are playing sports in grades 7 and 8?
Happy to answer that. We definitely compete. In our middle school, we're in a league called the Crosstown Middle School League, and there are a lot of schools in that league. Overlake, Bush, Bellevue Christian, University Prep, Forest Ridge, Shoreline Christian, and Seattle Academy. I'm sorry if I missed one, but those are the schools that we compete with in league, and then there are schools outside of our league that we also compete with. And it's very much like I said earlier, the 5th and 6th graders will compete, usually play each school, maybe a home and away match. But as you move up to the 7th and 8th grade, we might have a Division I and a Division II, let's say basketball teams, where the more experienced teams will play against the more experienced teams of the other schools, and same with the less experienced teams as well. So we definitely compete. You can expect to have 1 to 2 games per week. Mostly these are on weekdays, but there are a handful of weekends, but most of our commitment is weekday commitment.
Cool. Well, we are looking forward to getting back to interscholastic competition just as soon as we can. I know that Ms. Zhang has been really involved this year in discussions with her fellow coaches, fellow athletic directors within the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association and our local leagues to figure out how, when it's safe to get back to play, we're going to be able to do that. And how many times have you written and rewritten a sports schedule this year, Ms. Zhang? Should I not even ask anymore?
I think I have post-traumatic stress syndrome from all of that. So no, in all seriousness, it's okay. I don't mind doing it because I love sports and I want the kids to be able to play sports. I also love safety. So if I have to do it 25 times, I'll do it 25 times. We want to make sure that, like I said, that it's safe to do so. And we want to get these kids back out on the court, in the field, in the water. We're just aching to do that. So hoping that will happen in the new year. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to that as well. We had another question, which is whether you continue a sport forever or if you need to change sports every year or so. So I'm curious for the students there, how have you made some decisions about whether you wanted to continue playing a sport that you did once or maybe change into something else? What were some of the different decision-making criteria that you used for figuring that out? Dia, what would you share about that?
Well, I went to one basketball practice to see what it was like, and it was really safe. Everyone was keeping their distance. But like me and my family were a little bit anxious about it, and also my mom has asthma, so we decided that I was gonna wait it out until the case numbers dropped a little bit. And I plan on getting back as soon as like we think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so definitely some different decision making right now that's based on kind of the current circumstances. When you think back to the previous few years, as far as, you know, staying involved in sports that you tried once versus trying something new at EPS, like what are some different ways that you kind of made a decision about what you wanted to either stick with or, you know, try something new?
I tried out a bunch of different sports, and then I ended up liking basketball the best, so I just stuck with basketball. But the great thing is that there are different seasons, so like in the winter you can do something, in the fall you can do something, in the spring you can do something, and basketball is only in the winter. So if there's a different sport that I really enjoyed at a different time of the year, then I can do that as well. And it's really nice because I like basketball, but I also like cross country, and maybe I can try tennis again. So yeah, I just went with what I wanted to do.
Yeah, so it sounds like basketball is what you're kind of keeping as your primary interest, and then some other secondary interests will revolve around that for you at this point. Anvika, anything that you would share about kind of figuring out, what do you want to stick with something, or do you want to just kind of dabble in it? What would you share about that?
Definitely. Well, when I was in 5th grade, I'd actually broke my leg, so I didn't get to play many sports that year. But in 6th grade, I wanted to try every sport because I hadn't played many sports before then. So I tried soccer, basketball, and ultimate, and I really enjoyed ultimate frisbee. But I did also try rowing, and I enjoyed that more. So I still play frisbee sometimes during lunch with my friends and all of that. But I had decided that I really enjoyed rowing and I wanted to continue doing that. And I mean, it was a decision that I had to make, but I'm happy with my decision.
Yeah, it's a decision. It sounds like you're, you know, based in your experience. And one of the things you mentioned, Anvika, which I really love, and it actually brings me to our next question, which is like, there's still ways that you can be involved in an athletic pursuit at EPS without needing to be on the team or needing to be in the practice officially for it. So you were talking about you're just kind of playing frisbee with your friends, maybe at lunchtime or before after school, just kind of like tossing something around. So Jay's asking if there's a sport that I like but you don't have, you know, kind of how does that work? And can I start a club on that sport? So maybe Coach Hayes, I'm wondering if you can start us off with just this idea of maybe pioneering some sort of sporting interest at EPS, or, you know, different ways that students can be involved athletically without necessarily needing to be part of a formal team. How might some sort of club time work for them?
Yeah, so when we are on campus, I think when there's the interest there and there's the resources, so we've got a sponsor for it and we've got the space, we want to make those things happen. That was sort of how we started our table tennis club, which runs along with our open gym during the middle band, which is where the majority of our clubs will meet. When something grows out of that time and space into something that might become more of a sport, that's where Ms. Eng sort of takes the lead and pioneers that along with the student and guides them to figure out if it's something that, again, we have the resources to be able to do and the population, right? So that is sort of where that next phase of things would go.
Cool. And then Raj, do you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I can add on to that. So at the when I was in EPS and I just started, then I really liked football, but there were no football teams. Like in PE there was flag football, that's not really what I was looking for. So when there was like free time, we wouldn't do tackle football, but there was football on the, like, I don't know what to call it, but it's kind of like the road that was leading into the playground. So you'd play football there, and it was I enjoyed that a lot too. And like there's a fantasy football club, so I attended that too, because then we can talk football. So yeah, that's my answer to that question.
Can I add one more thing to that? So the other thing Raj reminded me of is if there's a student that's really passionate about a sport or activity, and maybe they try the club route, maybe it's something that works for us in sports and maybe it doesn't, but regardless of how else they are engaged in it, if they bring it into our PE program, we've done things like ice skating, fencing, ice hockey. A student comes to me with that interest, and again, if we can find a way to make it work, for the hockey, not a lot of people, play ice hockey. Not a lot of people ice skate on a regular basis, but some do. And this student had this really strong passion that was lasting for them, that they loved that and really wanted to see if we could do it. So we played floor hockey one day a week. We went ice skating one day a week. We worked on those skills separately, and then for the final that trimester, we rented a sheet of ice and we tried it out. Obviously non-contact, but had that opportunity for that student to see that when you have this passion, this is a place that supports that, wants to encourage it and help create a space for you to try things out.
Very, very cool. Well, we have a bunch of folks in the Q&A who are passionate about track and field and cross country. So I'm wondering if folks can share a little bit about what track and field practice is like, and maybe what events we focus on in track and field. That's one part of the question. We also want to hear just kind of generally about track and cross country program. So yeah, just some interest in running and other field sports out there. What would you maybe kick us off with, Coach or Ms. Eng, and then anybody else who wants to add in?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So as Ms. Hayes said, we do cross country in the fall and we do track in the spring for both middle school and upper school. We'll focus on track a little bit. We are so lucky to be able to rent the Lake Washington High School's track. So that is what we use. We use their track, we use their pits for jumping. And I think I heard the question, what events do we do? Honestly, it's whatever you all want to do. So if you're a sprinter and you want to work on your sprinting, we work on that. If you're a distance runner, we have coaches who help you with that. We do shot put, javelin, long jump, triple jump. So if there's a track event that you want to specialize in, you let your coach know and we find a way to make that happen. So yeah, did I answer all the questions, Ms. Miller?
Yeah, I know. I think you got a handle on that. And anyone else want to pitch in terms of experiences with track and field or cross country?
I was in cross country, I think in 8th grade, and I never ran before that ever in my life. I think I went once with my dad and I made it about 0.7 miles until I was like, I need to stop. And I really appreciated that the coaches, they went at your pace, like you had an option to walk if you got tired. And so I started running after that by myself, which was really nice. And I haven't been to any meets, but we did practice, like in practice, what to do there. So I thought it was really nice to see how I could improve over the course of the season.
Mm-hmm. So that's the second time. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that was such an awesome answer. Because there might be some of you out there who are like, hey, I just want to try track or cross country, and others are like, I want to compete. I want to, I want to see where I stand up to other kids at other schools. So we practice 3 days a week for both sports, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we have about one meet per week, and that's when we get to run against other schools. So the cool thing, like Dia was saying, is when you're in cross country, yeah, you're running with other kids from other schools, but you're really competing against yourself because you're trying to beat the time you had last time. So you're trying to get your personal best or something. So it's kind of a cool sport in that it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. So you can just try to improve yourself. And same with track also.
Really appreciate that. Ms. Eng, you were mentioning about how we utilize Lake Washington High School's track and field area, and we have a question, which is, where do we practice tennis, track, soccer, ultimate, etc.? So any practice that can't be done in our gym. Coach Hayes mentioned earlier that she drives buses. She actually has a commercial driver's license, so she can drive the big buses, because we transport to a variety of different locations off campus. So Ms. Eng, will you give us a run through of some of the different facilities that we utilize in the area outside of the EPS campus?
Absolutely. If you go to EPS, you are lucky enough to get to visit many parks in the Greater East Side. The normal parks that we rent are Wilburton and Marymore, Hidden Valley, Grass Lawn, and Robbinswood. So kind of in the Bellevue, Kirkland, Redmond area is we rent fields all over. And because we have so many teams and so many sports happening at the same time, there'll definitely be days where I'm renting 3 or 4 fields a day. And awesome coaches like Miss Hayes, she will drive our teams, and all of the coaches do drive to and from practices and to and from games. So if you're wondering, gosh, how do I get to practice? We totally take care of that. We will at the end of the school day, of course, not during COVID, but while we're on campus, at the end of the school day, your coaches will drive you to practice and drive you home. Your parents can pick you up at EPS, or they can pick you up at the field if it's prearranged as well. And same, sorry, Melissa, or Miss Hayes, I did not mean to leave out the Lake Union Boathouse. We also row there.
Certainly don't want to forget about our friends over on Lake Union there.
No, I didn't answer the tennis court. Sorry. We use Highland Community Center has been our tennis court of choice. It's about 10-15 minutes away. We've also rented out Marymore, and we have used other schools' courts when they're not there. So we have a nice relationship with other schools in our league and the park areas as well. So again, same deal. We provide transportation to and from all practices and all matches for tennis as well.
Mm-hmm. We got one question in the chat, which was whether EPS has a gymnastics related program, and that made me think of students who do outside sports and how that works. And certainly there's a difference between middle school and upper school from a credit perspective there. So Ms. Eng, I'm wondering if you can talk about, sort of students maintaining outside sports interests like gymnastics, something that we don't offer, probably wouldn't do any more than safely dabble in from a group PE perspective, perhaps. So what can you talk about as far as outside sports are concerned?
Yeah, there are so many cool sports that schools just can't offer because there's just too many of them. So we're excited to support you in your efforts. So if you have a sport that you do outside of school, that is one of the reasons why in 5th and 6th grade we want to have those sports practices during the day, so that frees up your time in the afternoon. Also, like we said, the 7th and 8th grade sports, if they practice 2 to 3 days a week, maybe your select sport will be the other 2 days, so you can kind of do lots of activities at the same time. I think, Miss Miller, you were kind of touching on, do we get PE credits or waivers for that? In the middle school, it's not unheard of. If you're doing a sport, let's say you're a ballet dancer and you dance 6 hours a day, or horseback riding, or some sport where it's more than the average, I do this a couple times a week, then you can work with our director of middle school, Mr. Uzwak, to possibly waive you out of PE. But we try not to have that happen, because during the school day, you have so many awesome academic classes, but PE is fun. This is where you want to go and let loose and get your energy out. So we really try hard to keep you in our PE classes if we can. But then when you move to the upper school, we do give waivers. You need 5 PE credits to graduate, and so you can get waivers for up to 4 of those. But I'm not sure if this is the right place to talk about that.
Well, come to our upper school athletics panel next year in January, and we will be delighted to tell you more about that. Jay asked a question, which is, how do you handle it if you have a conflict with a game or another activity, such as a musical performance at the same time? So, just to that point of having students that have lots of interests and activities that they do potentially outside of EPS or other activities within EPS. So students, I'm wondering if you can comment on this, if you've had something come up that has maybe been in conflict with a game or a practice that you have for a particular sport, and how you've dealt with that.
So I play a sport outside of school, and it's cricket. So sometimes I have cricket practice or cricket game. The day there's basketball, I usually try to prioritize school because I know they might need me. And when I sign up, I know I have to be there. So I try to prioritize school, but if it's like a really important, like it's a final or a semifinal, I try to be at whichever game's more important. But like 99% of the time, I'll go with school. So yeah.
Something important I've discovered is that, like, if I had a doctor's appointment or something the day of a game or some previous commitment, I can always email my coach. And they're usually very accepting if you have a previous commitment or a doctor's appointment or something that you can't reschedule. They're usually very accepting about anything. You just have to communicate and email them and make sure they know what's going on.
Yeah, I was in a play production last year, and it was a week of shows which took the entire evening. So I let my basketball coach know, and I emailed someone, I don't remember who it was. I emailed them to let them know that I wouldn't be there for the week, and if it was still okay to join the team. And they were like, yeah, go ahead, just make sure that you mark your availability on TeamSnap. And it was really nice because I was able to do both things, which I really enjoyed.
So it sounds like you can, have different priorities that might sometimes be in conflict with one another, but if you communicate about them with the folks who would be affected potentially and figure out how to weigh those priorities, maybe with the help of a coach or a teacher, that you're going to be able to figure out a way through that. Those aren't make it or break it kind of moments. Cool. So we have a bunch of other great questions. Let's see, maybe this is along a similar line in terms of, practicing and kind of what the commitment is to that. So Hannah wants to know, Hannah's applying for 5th grade and was wondering, if we're in a sport, how long is each practice per day? Also, if you are in a sport, how long is the sport season before you can either stay with the same sport or pick up a new sport? So kind of commitment on a daily basis, and then kind of the season-long commitment, how long does that last for?
I can tackle that question. So, when we were in person, it was 1 hour, 25-minute practices for any sport that you take. But now on virtual classes, we do 1 hour so that you can get away from your screen between classes. And then also each trimester is, I believe, about 10 to 12 weeks. And there might be like a few days in between where you get a break if it's like a hard week. And then you can't do like the sports are seasonal, so you can't do like basketball in the fall trimester and the winter trimester. You have to change sports each trimester, but you can do it again next year I think basketball is winter, fall is soccer, and spring is ultimate frisbee.
Cool, super helpful, Raj. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to add about that?
Yeah, I just thought it'd be important to note that the 1 hour, 25-minute thing is for sports that you're doing during the school day in 5th and 6th grade. So if you have a sport instead of a PE class, it'd be 1 hour and 25 minutes or 1 hour during virtual school. Sports that are after school have varying time slots, depending on what sport it is and if you have to travel to a different location.
Mm-hmm. How long is rowing, for example?
Well, online rowing is 1.5 hours. Rowing on the water is 2.5 hours. I'm not sure. I can't count.
Coach Hayes, have you been counting how long the practices have been?
I don't count so much because they fly by and they're so much fun. However, I do schedule them for the students to make sure they're on their calendars and their parents to make sure that we're all collaborating and communicating. So the online, typically, as Anvika said, about 1.5 hours. And then on the water, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours, typically during the school year, because part of that is the travel time of students meeting at the bus, driving over there, getting the equipment on the water. So while it may sound like a long time, students have noticed that it's maximizing the water time, it's maximizing the experience that they want to have. And the other thing about the time management that some have shared with me later on in their rowing career is that the less time you have, the less time you have to waste. So as they are choosing the things they want to do, they want to make the most of every minute. And I think that's part of what they notice over time with that schedule that is a little bit longer. A lot of the other middle school sports, I believe, are an hour and a half. And Ms. Eng can confirm or deny that. So that's kind of where we are.
I will confirm that, except sometimes cross country likes to go an hour 15. But for the most part, you can expect sports to be about an hour and a half.
Awesome. And speaking of sports scheduling, someone wants to know, when you do basketball, are there two teams that alternate each practice, or are there two teams that stick with the same time? So how does the scheduling of, I think maybe this question is about kind of how the scheduling of and rotating of different basketball teams within our gym works when we have multiple different teams all wanting to practice in the same winter season typically.
It alternates, and then I think maybe one or two times it's happened that we had to put down the barrier in the middle of the court, and there's one team on one side and another team on the other side for basketball. And then in soccer, I think once the boys and the girls team in 5th and 6th grade, or 6th and 7th grade, I don't remember, we just had a co-ed practice, which was really fun also.
Yeah, for the 5th and 6th grade basketball, we also rent out gyms around. So there's a community center or Hidden Valley gym. So if there are two teams are scheduled at the same time for during class for the 5th and 6th grade, like 5th and 6th grade girls and 5th and 6th grade boys, we will try to find alternate locations so the teams can have their own gym. But it's absolutely true. Sometimes we just can't make it happen, and sometimes we go co-ed, sometimes we share, and we're super creative with our facilities for sure.
Speaking of traveling off campus, Nirvan's wondering, do teams travel to different cities, and how does that work?
I can tackle that question.
Go ahead, Raj.
So I've heard in upper school, some times teams go as far as Spokane or like Tacoma, but usually in usually for 5th through 8th grade, you usually go as far as Seattle. So the higher level you're at, the farther you go. So yeah.
Cool. Anything else on traveling for sports that folks want to add?
I believe your parents can pick you up and drop you, but I'm not sure. But usually I take the bus, so Miss Hayes or Coach Hayes or Coach On usually drive us there. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and every student does a variety of different information forms when they enroll, and then will be participating in sports and athletic programs in general at EPS. So one of those things is a transportation permissions form, and that allows us to know if we are authorized to allow you to leave a sports practice or a sports game with anyone besides the coach and the team that you went there with. So if that's a parent, guardian, another authorized family member, or close family friend, those are the types of details that we'll get on all those transportation authorizations for each student. So great question. All right, so we have somebody who wants to know, is cheerleading an option for sports? And I'm wondering, for somebody who cheers, are there going to be an opportunity for them to participate in that at EPS? Ms. Eng, any future cheerleading options going to hit the?
Sorry, I was waiting for the pause. I wasn't sure if someone here was into cheer. I'm sorry to say I do not see cheer coming to EPS in the near future. However, that would be something that would be like an exciting club if you had enough students who wanted to do that, and you could find a sponsor and we could find space. That might be the right avenue for that, but we will not have a cheer team.
All right. So if you dream it, do it. Make it a club. If you come to EPS, and I knew that there are some there are some students who have cheered prior to coming to EPS. I can think of one student in our 6th grade in particular this year who I know has cheered before coming to EPS. So this might be a club in the making. You never know. One question,
Miss Miller, we have had a cheer club on campus before, back in the days of Miss Safavi. So it has existed. It could exist again if there was student interest there for a club.
Pretty cool. Good to know. A general question about sports at EPS, and this is something that I'd love to hear lots of different opinions on. Are sports serious at EPS? This student asked in particular, for example, do you tackle in football? But I'm wondering about the idea of how serious are we about our sports? How competitive are we? Or, how seriously do we take sports at EPS? I think there's a lot of different ways that you might be able to kind of read into this question, or a lot of good questions that kind of stem from this question in my mind. So are sports serious at EPS?
I believe, as a whole, sports at EPS are serious. In 5th and 6th grade especially, you can choose whether you're more focused on being competitive or getting better at the sport. But the sports are serious. We're there to have fun, obviously, but it's not going to be a waste of your time.
But also to clarify, it's not like you're going to soccer games and the other team's pushing you over. I don't know if it happened back in your time, but at least last year when we went to soccer games or basketball games, it wasn't really a rough play. It was more of just let's say a scrimmage, but in a game form. There were fouls and everything, but it was nothing serious.
I think that they are serious in the way that you have to tell the coach if you're going to show up, and you have to make sure you're there at practice and doing what the coach is telling you to do. But you can you can have it be one activity, and then you could be doing a bunch of other activities as well, as long as you show up. And then there are also students that want to do a lot of that one activity, and the coaches, I think, really do a good job of making sure everyone gets what they want out of it. So in my cross country team, for example, I had people in my team who had been running for a long time, and they were really good. And there are people who just joined like me, and everyone was able to get what they wanted out of the practice.
So I'm going to give this one a try, but I'm having a hard time because I'm not really sure what you mean by serious. So are we serious? Yes, in the sense that we expect commitment and we want kids to show up and have a good time and respect their coaches, their officials, their teammates, their parents. So that in that sense, we're definitely serious about it. We're serious. We have great coaches. When I hire coaches, I want to make sure that our coaches are the best coaches they can be for you. I want them to be able to teach you the fundamentals, the techniques, the skills you need to succeed on the court, on the field, and off. Serious, do we want to win? Heck yeah, who doesn't want to win when you play sports? But that's not why we play, right? We all want to win, and that's our goal when we're out there, but we want to have fun, team camaraderie, leadership skills, learn to compete, learn to win and lose gracefully. So there's all these other lessons that come with playing sports. So yes, I think we're serious, but we don't take ourselves that seriously. We also, we really hammer in the fun. We want to have fun.
All right, anything else to add on our serious sports question? I really appreciate that, Ms. Eng, because I do believe that at EPS, we really see that any number of experiences can be done very seriously and earnestly while still being very fun and enjoyable, whether you're talking about a sport, something in class, an academic team, just a conversation that you're having with someone. And so I think that sports are no exception to that. And, you know, we take sports seriously enough that we really committed to being able to offer them remotely throughout this year and throughout the spring trimester of last year when we went remote. So we did receive one question about how do you practice rowing while online? Sounds very interesting. And Coach Hayes, I'm wondering if you could talk about your setup of keeping track of your rowing athletes. And then Anvika, if you want to share specifically what practice is like, if you could just kind of like talk through a typical practice, that would be great.
All right, so great question. A lot of people have wondered similar things. So our first day of rowing practice last spring was set to be March 2nd, which was the day that we closed in-person activities at Eastside Prep. And I had the opportunity that afternoon to meet with the team here in the mezzanine and say, look, like, this is what we prepare for. We prepare for the unexpected. We adapt to the situation because every single day in rowing is different. And so we put together a plan for the first few weeks that had the students in the driver's seat saying, these are the things we think we need to work on for when we go back to the water. This is how we can train on land via a computer to stay together, to collaborate, to maintain our connection as a team, and to develop the skills physically as well as mentally to continue to thrive in the environment of rowing, being on the water in changing circumstances. So that's how it started. As Raj mentioned, it was a lot about conditioning, but also utilizing the equipment that students have. With this remote approach, whether it's sports or in classes, we need to find ways to leverage the equipment that students have. Again, it goes back to those early days where I talked about before we had a gym. It was about making what we had be what we need and making the most of those moments. And that's what we've continued to do. So as we got towards the end of the spring, some of our rowers decided they wanted to race in virtual formats using their rowing machines. Other people continued to focus on their just physical overall conditioning. Some people knew that the cardio piece was really where they needed to continue to build strength. Other people were focused more on building strength, doing body weight circuits, utilizing weights around their house, things like water bottles, milk jugs, things that could be adapted to be what we needed in the world that we live in. So that's kind of how that looked. And then when we got to go back to in-person activities, that really laid the foundation for us to be successful in those environments, because then we were in singles. Single person rowing shows are very narrow. They're tippy when you have a really strong core and the ability to be flexible and dynamic. And in the moment when the boat goes by and throws a wake underneath you, to roll with it and know that you're going to get through it, you're going to be okay, and your teammates are there to protect you, to support you, and to stretch you to that next level. So that's sort of how we did online rowing.
Mm. And Anvika, was it fun? Was it enjoyable? Did you work that core like Coach Hayes said?
Yes, online rowing, it was very different, as it will be. But it was fun. We made sure to do different activities every day. It wasn't repetitive at all. And we started to get better at keep your cameras on talking during practices, which makes it so much more fun. But any discussions about school or homework or whatever. And it's been an experience, and I hope to go back on the water soon, but it's been fun.
That's awesome. And for those who have been to our virtual campus tour or will go to a virtual campus tour coming up, you may have seen that we have a still image of Coach Hayes's rowing practice setup from this spring that we've included in the tour when we talk about sports. That is because back when Microsoft Teams meetings were only 4 squares per screen, Coach Hayes, how many screens did you have up concurrently in order to manage rowing practice?
That's a great question. I had 4 laptops and 2 cell phones. That way I was able to make sure the students were all on camera to give them real-time feedback on the exercise they were doing, and also to allow them, if I positioned them just right, they could see each other and feel like they were together even when they were apart.
So have you changed that setup since Teams allowed for more people on each screen, or you still keep the multi-screen interface?
A little bit. So for my classes, I am teaching here from campus, which is a great opportunity. We have a mobile system here in the gymnasium that allows me to see the students on a bigger screen. I do still set up 2 or 3 other laptops as well, so that they can see me from multiple angles when I'm demonstrating things and stuff like that. So, and they can still see each other as well. So.
Wow.
For online school, one thing I've realized with basketball is it's really important to honor the system, and you're supposed to have your camera on, you're supposed to be participating in class, you're supposed to be engaged, and Oh, there's multiple things that we've done to implement that, such as today, Ms. Hayes put a challenge out, so people were like motivated to turn on their cameras, and there were like there was like a point system, so Coach On and Coach Hayes are coming up with these innovative ways, but like I think it's really important to honor the system and to actually turn on your camera, participate in class like you would in real time.
Pro tips for remote learning from Raj. Appreciate that. We have another question regarding remote, and Meenakshi wants to know, when we do eventually go back to school, is EPS planning on letting people do sports in person? With the big change, when is EPS planning on going back to school? So just to give a little bit of clarity to the second part of that, right now we are planning to be back on campus just as soon as we can safely do so. Whether that is going to happen sometime at the end of the winter trimester, sometime in the spring trimester, or as we're beginning the upcoming school year, we're really committed to just doing that as safely as we can, and in the ways that will best facilitate student learning and student connection with one another just as soon as we possibly can. So no specific timeline on that yet, and we'll keep everyone posted as we have more details on that. But you know, what will it look like to do sports in person when we have a chance to go back? Ms. Eng, can you help with that one first?
Yeah, similar to what Ms. Miller said, we're kind of on hold waiting to see what is safe, what we do. Our kids in our sports program, I can tell you that in the fall, we actually did run sports live. We had small pod, socially distanced, masked sports. So it might not be the sports that some of you are used to, but it was fantastic. We had small pods of kids of about 5 with a coach, and they could practice staying 6 feet apart, indoor masks for sure, and coaches were masked at all times. So we got to do, you know, cross country and rowing with Miss Hayes, and basketball, and in upper school, and ultimate and volleyball. It was great. We had over half the school participating this fall. So in my perfect world, the COVID numbers will go down, we'll get back in school, and we'll have sports as usual. Your teams, your games, all of that. If we're not quite there yet, then we're hoping to do something similar and run the small pod, socially distanced sports, and then gradually start getting where maybe we cannot wear a mask, or maybe we can scrimmage a little bit, not be 6 feet apart. But again, we would never until we're ready, until the King County's ready, until it's safe. And again, we should probably make sure that kids and parents understand this is only at the comfort level of the families. If a student is not doesn't feel comfortable or has someone at home where they want to be extra safe, it's totally optional and just something we want to be able to offer. So yeah, but like I said, in my perfect world, we'll start it up again, probably not until February. But yeah.
Yeah, similar lines, Kim, with the ski bus. What's your knowledge of, you know, when we'll be able to run the ski bus again? I know Mary had asked that there's a downhill, you know, she just wanted to know kind of about skiing. And Raj, I know you shared a little bit about ski bus. So Ms. Zhang, can you start by telling us about ski bus and how that works, and maybe when we might be able to do that again? And then Raj, if you want to share anything about taking the ski bus, or folks that you know that take the ski bus, or anyone else who wants to chime in.
I'm actually going to have to defer to Raj because I'm not in charge of the ski bus. So Raj,
are you in charge?
You're in charge. You're the experienced one on the panel. Go for it.
Mr. Kelly Hedrick usually leads the ski bus, but my parents didn't really want me to stay up that late, so I usually didn't go on ski bus, but I was really involved in like how they would go. So the 3 passes I remember was Snoqualmie Pass, Crystal Mountain, and Stevens Pass. I think Crystal Mountain they did once because that was like this quote-unquote special mountain, and then they usually went to Snoqualmie and Stevens Pass. And I've heard that like every Friday they take you up to the mountain, and then you come around 11 p.m. Back to school, and then your parents pick you up from there, or if you're an upper schooler and you can drive, you drive back home. So yeah.
Any other ski bus experience out there?
I could just offer that it typically falls under our outdoor learning program handled by Mr. Kelly Hedrick under the Director of Student Wellbeing's office. And there's, like Raj said, usually 3 or 4 a year, and some are on Saturdays, some are on Fridays, and you get more information well in advance of those so you can plan if that's something you want to do that works for your family.
Yeah, as far as the outdoor opportunities are concerned, a lot of those are part of Education Beyond the Classroom or experiential education, as Coach Hayes mentioned, through our Office of Student Wellbeing. And so there are a number of different things that students have participated in historically and will participate in whatever remote and socially distanced ways. We will be leading these trips this year through our Education Beyond the Classroom program. Lots of different physical activities and challenges. So even though those aren't part of our competitive athletics program, students have done everything from rock climbing to canyoneering to caving. What are some other things that folks have done on EBC from a physical activity standpoint? Rafting, what else?
Kayaking and hiking.
Kayaking, hiking. Students, anyone else out there who's participated in something physical during an EBC trip?
We get to have many unique activities too, like we went on a big swing or a tightrope in the trees or other courses like that. Super fun. Can't wait to get back out and do some of those things again. I know, yeah, I remember from 6th grade orientation experience. I feel like you were there, Anvika, when I was there at Camp South, and yeah, there were students who were doing archery and other types of experiences. So even when it doesn't fall under the daily sports program or our own facilitated athletics, there are lots of different physical activities that students will participate in from time to time as part of Education Beyond the Classroom. One of the ones that was really popular was Gaga Ball for the longest time. Yeah, how did Gaga Ball get started? I have as an EPS tradition. We had a Gaga Ball pit on the sport court, and it just became a thing in our grade. Yeah, basically, anytime we looked outside, they were playing Gaga Ball. Go ahead. Was that Raj?
Yeah, on EBC week, I think we went to Golden Gardens. I think that's what it was called, and we got to play like volleyball there. Or no, it was Ultimate Frisbee. We played there, and some of the other people played volleyball. And this was when there wasn't COVID, so sadly we had to miss our trip this year and last year because there was COVID. But I was really excited to go to camp, but we couldn't. So, and then this year or last year, the first EBC week that we could attend, like I said, we went to Golden Gardens and we went on some hiking mountain where we did like an obstacle course. So those are some athletic things we did. Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, we have a very important question as we're rounding out our evening, which is, do we have a mascot at EPS? And if so, are we able to sign up to be the mascot? What is our EPS mascot, friends? Edgar.
The eagle.
Do y'all get that?
He makes an appearance every year at the start of the year in our tally rally. And I'm pretty sure that an upper schooler is Edgar the Eagle, but I don't know. He's wearing a mask all the time, so yeah. I guess if you really want to be the mascot, you could ask the teachers and see what they can do.
I can answer that. I have had various kids and teachers come to me asking, can I be the eagle at this homecoming, or can I be the eagle at this senior night game? And we are equal opportunity eagles over here. If you want to be in the mascot and part of the mascot, we would welcome you for sure.
That's something I'm looking forward to now that I know you can do it.
We have just inspired Raj, and I am so excited about this. Yeah, the Edgar costume has a little.
I am Edgar. You'll never know when I'm. You'll never know when I'm Edgar. It'll be secret.
I would never know when you're Edgar, Raj. And I think, you know, there is a little bit of a height differential between you and maybe some of the other folks who have been Edgar in the past. So it's good to know that the costume does have a little bit of a height requirement to it, to be able to see through the eye holes that are in the mask. And of course, we want to make sure that wearing that Edgar hat is going to stay COVID friendly, and you know that we're being really safe with our practices of utilizing the Edgar costume. So Edgar has appeared in EPS campus video that features some safety instructions that we'll be rolling out when students are coming back to campus. So stay tuned for that. Really excited for that. Speaking of equal opportunity Edgar, we have a question. Are there girl and boy sports teams, or is it any gender teams? How do gender identities work with participation in different sports at EPS?
Well, so far I've been in girls teams and co-ed teams, and there are boys teams, but like I've always seen the teachers being really supportive of gender identity. So I'm personally just a girl, so I've never like encountered anything. I've never asked to be in like a boys team, but the teachers are really supportive. So yeah.
Thanks, Dia. Anything anyone want to add about kind of different gender sports and how that works, co-ed teams, things like that?
So most of our sports are single gender, like we'll have girls basketball, girls soccer, boys soccer. However, there are a handful of sports that are co-ed, and that would be cross country and middle school cross country, middle school tennis, middle school track and field, and rowing. So those are co-ed sports, and the others are separated.
Awesome. Well, to round things out this evening, I'm hoping that each of our panelists can go through and share with us just something that is a favorite sports-related, PE-related, physical activity-related memory that they have at EPS. So take a moment to think about that. And while you're considering how you might want to answer that last question, I just want to give you a sense of some upcoming events that we have. As far as these community panels are concerned, of course, you can always find our community panels online that have already taken place. That includes our middle school and upper school general community panels, as well as our equity and inclusion, compassionate leadership, service learning, you know, we have a whole set of themes in that one that we've already covered. So feel free to take a look at those online. Finding Performing Arts will be coming up next week, and we're really excited for that on December 16th. Technology will tackle in early January, just after we get back from the new year. So if you have any tech-specific questions, whether it's coursework, projects, academic teams like robotics or Fuser, let us know that evening. And then the upper school athletics panel January 13th. So that's a great opportunity if you want to hear more about athletics at EPS and specifically how they interface with upper school life. So we would love to have your questions and get your participation in any of those future panels that we have coming up. So with that said, I think we can hopefully go down the line and start in the order that our panelists were introduced. And Raj, would you kick us off with a favorite EPS kind of sports related, physical activity related memory?
Oh my God, this is gonna be so hard. There's been a lot of moments, but probably when we were in a basketball game last year, and I think we were facing UPrep, I'm not sure, but we were facing UPrep, and one of our teammates fell down. I don't remember who it was, but one of our teammates fell down, and two people from their team came to help, and a few people from our team came to help. So that shows the unity when we're playing basketball of like helping out our teammates and the other team actually caring for the other team. So it's not like rough, and it's not like we're all playing for ourselves, and like we're a team and we have to work together.
Thanks, Raj. Anvika, do you have a favorite sports-related memory you want to share?
Yeah, I remember when I was playing Ultimate on the last game of the season, the parents all brought popcorn and donuts and like random snacks and drinks and stuff, and we had like a whole nother game at the end, and we were just screaming on the field eating food. It was so much fun.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like my kind of sports game for sure. Tia, what would you share?
There was this one time in 6th grade when my friend made a bet with Coach On. She said if someone makes 2 free throws in a row this game, will you buy the team slushies? And I didn't know about it, but I got fouled and I made him the free throws, and later Coach On got us all slushies. And that was a lot of fun.
That's even better because you didn't know what you were set up for. You just got to be, sort of victorious in a nice quiet way with those free throws. Pretty awesome. Well, Coach On, can you confirm or deny that allegation that you provided slushies for all of these students after the game? Is this true? Oh, you're muted, Coach On.
Oh, there we go. Dia, you took my moment. I was gonna use that same story. No. No, one of my favorite memories from EPS is I love seeing when kids make their first basket or their first goal, or really, make a really impactful play that helps a teammate or helps the team in the success. And it just goes to show that all the hard work and sweat that you put into it pays off. So whether you're a beginner or an advanced player, it's nice to see that success, and that success being supported by all your teammates and fellow. So it's really great. So that's one of my favorite moments to see for sure.
So John, I have a quick question. Last year you said if Gregory made a half court shot, then you'll buy everyone in PE Burger Master, and he actually made the shot, and I've heard you haven't fulfilled that promise yet.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Coach On, it sounds like we need to pay you more since you're feeding all of the children.
Oh man, this is great because this is being recorded, so we've now got this documented as well. So Coach On, you're being held to it. First slushies, now Burger Master. Next time it's going to be like lobster dinner or something like that. I can't wait to hear how the ante gets upped. Coach Hayes, you want to share a favorite memory with us?
I'm going to thank Raj for getting me a little extra time to think about that. It's challenging. 15 years is full of amazing memories and moments. And I think, the stories that the student shared, I think of the sportsmanship, the spirit, the camaraderie, snacks in another game afterward. I think it's those moments, and every day is better than the last, and every game and every practice. And last spring, the thing that we started to learn with the rowing team, and I think it carries over now as Raj's experience with basketball and everything else, this is a time when we realize that every moment is to be appreciated. And I think listening to kids talk about that and how it's not just about winning, but helping them get to a place where they feel like winners, and reminding them that it's not about being the best, but being their best every day, and helping them learn to define that and gain perspective. So I think that happens in PE, it happens in customized training. You've heard people talk about how it happens in rowing and basketball, and I've had the privilege to, coach soccer and ultimate, and someday I'll like to coach more things. And I think just the opportunities every day.
Awesome. And Miss Ang, do you have a sports related memory you want to round us out with?
I do, although I feel like we should end on that amazing feeling and sentiment by Miss Hayes, but I do. One came to mind last year it was a 7th and 8th grade boys basketball game, and there was one kid who hadn't scored all year. All the other kids had scored, and the whole team kind of took it upon themselves to help this one kid score. So they passed him the ball all the time, and he kept shooting and shooting, and I was just like, oh, I hope he scores, and nothing was going in. And finally, with a couple minutes to go, the 7th grader scored, and it was great. It was like they had won the Olympics. Everyone was jumping up and down. It was awesome. Both teams were excited about this, but my favorite moment was after the game. I was cleaning up like I normally do. Everyone had left the gym, and this student was in the corner not knowing I was there, and he was like, yes, Like, he was so excited, and tears came to my eyes. And that's what it's about, right? Teammates, camaraderie, you know, reaching your goal. It was just an awesome moment. So that's my favorite middle school athletics moment.
That's an awesome moment. I'm so glad for all the moments and the memories that you all shared, even when it was hard to pick just one, even when you were outed for making promises about Burger Master that you are now going to definitely have to keep, you know, 2 students. All of these things have been so wonderful to hear about. And I've just been really heartened to hear about how much the members of our community have been able to still be physically active and be in connection and team with one another, even while we've been off campus, even while we've been remote. And Coach Hayes, just like you said, you know, finding those opportunities every day, finding those ways that we can stay connected, that we can keep surprising ourselves. And, you know, it really makes me think of all those moments of a kid, you know, standing and like, yes, when they surprise themselves doing something for the first time in a game. I think on the athletics level and in so many ways as a community and as a society right now, we're surprising ourselves with the potential that we have for doing good things in this world. So with that said, I want to thank all of our panelists for being here tonight. It was so wonderful to be able to participate with each of you, to hear about the ways that you've connected. Thanks so much to our students, especially you know, for contributing your lived experiences as EPS students right now, and also for answering questions in the chat, as well as out loud to the folks who participated, to our educators for being here tonight. We know you are going above and beyond right now to make remote a great experience. So we appreciate your extra time this evening, Coach An and Coach Hayes, and Ms. Zhang, thanks again for organizing a really wonderful program. So, so for all of us at EPS Admissions, thank you to each one of you for participating in our panel tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you at future events. We wish you all the best with this admission season, and please take good care and be safe. We'll see you again really soon.
Thank you. Bye.